So, speaking of feedback from people, rough transition right now. But that's what we do here.
What? Rough transitions.
Mm-hmm. Rough transitions. And you know what? You know what's interesting about the rough transitions? And any vet that's out there that's listening to me right now, or anybody that's not a vet, anyone that's been through hard times and loss, it's a big rough transition. And you go in and out emotionally. And, you know, you'll be feeling like crap one minute, and then the next minute you'll feel okay, and you'll be laughing. And that's like I said, that's okay. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are scared that they might be acting the wrong way. But it's all right.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, and just like how you're saying where it may seem like people don't understand, and that's okay because they don't. That's so true. And this is the way I'll think of it, because my best friends are, actually they're still in Navy SEALs. So
these are guys that you grew up with, and spent
my best friends. They were in my wedding, yeah. So a lot of times, you know, when I talk to them and stuff, I just in my own head I kind of imagine what it's like coming back, right? So if you kind of consider it, kind of in a nutshell, where you consider, hey, what's your biggest problems when you're overseas, when you're in the war? What are these big problems you got to worry about? Okay, and then let's factor that in. Okay, then we come home, and then. Okay, let's say in the war, your biggest problem is getting shot and dying. Your men getting shot and dying, right? Or you getting both your legs blown off, or you know, or whatever your biggest problem is as far as worrying about. Okay, and then you come home, and I don't know, your girlfriend or your wife is like, "Hey, I thought I told you to do those dishes," and she's flipping out on you.
Yeah.
And so in the back of your mind, you're kind of like, okay, wait, the comparison, it was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I was in the desert worried about my legs being blown off. Yeah. And now I'm here where apparently the biggest problem, according to my girlfriend or wife.
Earth. The biggest problem on earth.
Apparently, because she's yelling dishes. At me. She's really mad. She's mad. She won't really talk to me. Are the dishes, yeah. And it's just not computing.
Yeah.
You know, and then you go next door, and their biggest problem is kind of on the same level. So, yeah, they don't understand. And you, in a way, you're living in this crazy world where I can see how that could kind of get to you and be like, man, am I wrong? You know?
Yeah, so one of the things that and you hear me talk about this before, is perspective.
Yeah.
And wanting to see, I always talk about it from a leadership perspective. Like, I want to think about what my superior is thinking. Why is he telling me to do this? Let me get his perspective. And then what are my subordinates thinking? What is their perspective? And it's a very useful tool to use in what you're talking about right now. And I remember I had a situation like that where I was at work, and I forget what was going on, but something was going on. Mm-hmm. Like, I think we were preparing to deploy guys earlier. There was something major was going on. Mm-hmm. There was some major issues. I think it was Afghanistan, and we were getting ready to deploy guys early, and it was a real big spin up and all this stuff. And literally, I come home, and I mean, I'm at work, and we're trying to figure out how we're put this plan together, and guys are going to deploy, and it's, you know, horrible, and, you know, whatever, bunch of stress. I come home, and I go, hey babe, you know, how you doing? I said to my wife, and she's sitting there, and all of a sudden she like picks up the phone, and someone calls her, someone calls her, she picks up the phone, and she hangs up. She's like, I can't believe this. And I was like, I thought someone died or whatever. Mm. And I said, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she said, it was something along like, the Wiggles is the same night as Barney, and I booked both tickets. So it was something she was taking the kids to. That like it literally did not matter in any way, shape, or form to me at all. But to her, you know, she had spent $22 on these tickets for 3 kids at the time. Mm-hmm. That's $66, and now she had double booked the children for multiple shows. It was harsh.
It's dark.
But what I had to do is, I had to go in perspective. In her world, man, that was $66, right?
Yeah.
And it was the kids, and they both wanted to see all the shows or whatever the thing was. Mm-hmm. So in her perspective, in her part of the world, that's a really big deal.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, something you got to do as a human. Always look at what other people's perspectives are. And you know what? If people are pissed off, if your wife's freaking out because you didn't do the dishes, I got some really easy solution to that. Do the dishes. Yeah. Just do the dishes.
Yeah. Could be worse.
Put on some music and scrub some pots and pans. Let's do this. Yeah. You know what? I'll scrub some pots and pans. Be happy to. Let's make this happen.
Yeah, that's good, man. And that, that if you have the ability and kind of the wherewithal to do that, to really, it's detaching. You're detaching and looking at their situation, not looking at it from your own personal situation. If you can manage to do that, and I think it helps when someone reminds you, like just like how you say it right now, and maybe someone will be like, "Hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and remember that next time."
All this stuff, and I say this to leaders all the time when I go out and work with companies. It's so much of it is just about awareness.
Yes.
When you become aware of the problem, you become aware of the mistake, or you become aware of the solution, and it's there in front of you, then it becomes very easy. The problem is people aren't aware of how easy it can be to solve some of these things if you just make this small adjustment to your mentality.
Yeah, all you're aware of is the fact that you're freaking steaming, redlining, because for the 5th time your wife told you to do something when, like I said, you're worrying about your guys getting killed yesterday.
2 days ago, yeah. As one of my buddies used to say when we were coming home from our first deployment, he says, "Can you believe this? Tomorrow we're going to get on an aluminum tube and we're going to wake up back in San Diego." I was like, okay, man, take it easy. Just take it easy, brother.